What if I told you there's a formula for success? One that was figured out over 100 years ago, but is still making people millionaires today? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're cracking open Napoleon Hill's masterpiece, Think and Grow Rich, to unpack that very formula. Now, this book isn't just some guy's opinion. Nope. It's the product of more than 20 years of hardcore research. Hill was actually tasked by the industrial giant Andrew Carnegie himself to go out and interview over 500 of the most successful people of that era. We're talking about the heavy hitters, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, to find that one common thread, that secret sauce to their incredible success. And this quote right here, this is the master key to the whole philosophy. The idea that your thoughts aren't just these random, fleeting things in your head. Oh no, when you mix them with a super clear purpose, a refusal to ever give up, and this white-hot burning desire, they become real. They literally take shape in the physical world. And that's the incredible idea we're going to explore. So here's our game plan. First, we'll see how a thought actually becomes real. Then, we'll walk through the 6 specific steps to getting rich. After that, we'll get into why persistence is absolutely non-negotiable. And finally, we'll talk about how you can become the captain of your own soul. Okay, let's dive right in. How on earth does something you can't even touch, like a thought, end up creating real, tangible wealth? Well, it all kicks off with that little spark of desire. So let me tell you about this guy who is the perfect example of this whole idea, Edwin C. Barnes. His desire wasn't fuzzy or vague, it was laser-focused. He didn't just want to get a job working for the legend Thomas Edison. He was absolutely determined to become his business partner. Okay, but let's look at the reality of his situation. I mean, he didn't know Edison from Adam. And on top of that, he was so broke he couldn't even buy a train ticket. Now, for 99% of people, this is where the dream just fizzles out and dies. But what Barnes had wasn't just some wish. It was an all-consuming obsession. So what does this guy do? He jumps on a freight train to get to New Jersey. He walks right into Edison's laboratory, and he doesn't meekly ask for a job. He declares that he's there to go into business with him. Edison later said he gave Barnes a chance, just a low-level job, not because of what he said, but because he saw a fire in his eyes that just screamed, "I'm going to get what I came for, and I don't care how long it takes." So Barnes took that menial job, and he did it for years, but he never, ever lost sight of his goal. He was just waiting for his shot, and his moment finally came disguised as a failure. See, Edison had invented this new dictating machine, the Ediphone, but his sales team couldn't sell it. They said it was a dud. But Barnes, he saw what nobody else did, his big opportunity. He went to Edison, said he could sell it, and boy did he. He sold it so well that Edison gave him the exclusive contract and, you guessed it, made him his partner. That partnership made Barnes an incredibly rich man, and it lasted for over 30 years. He literally thought himself into a partnership with the greatest inventor on the planet. His entire fortune started with nothing more than an idea, fueled by that burning desire. So that's the story of success. But Hill's book is just as much about understanding what causes failure. What happens when you have the desire, you're on the right track, but you stop just inches from the finish line? Let's compare Barnes to this other guy, R.U. Darby. Back in the gold rush, Darby and his uncle struck gold. They were ecstatic. But then, the vein of ore just disappeared. They kept digging and drilling but found nothing. They got discouraged and they quit. They sold all their equipment to a junk man for a few $100 and went home. But that junk man was smart. He hired an engineer who took a look and figured out that the gold vein was just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped digging. They were 3 feet away from a fortune. Okay, so having a burning desire is the fuel, we get that. But a fire without any direction just burns itself out. You need a vehicle, you need a plan, and Hill gives us the exact blueprint for building one. And this isn't some motivational mumbo-jumbo that Hill just dreamed up. This is the real deal, practical, step-by-step method that Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men who ever lived, personally shared with him. This is the actual formula for turning that intangible desire into cold, hard cash. And every single step is critical. 1. Be specific. Not, I want more money, but an exact number. 2. What are you going to give in return? Success is a transaction, not a handout. 3. Set a deadline. A goal without a deadline is just a daydream. 4. Make a plan and start immediately, right now. 5. Write it all down. This is your contract with yourself. And number 6, this is where the magic really kicks in. Read it out loud twice a day, every day. See yourself Feel yourself. Believe you already have it. You're not just wishing here, you're programming your subconscious mind to make it happen. So you can have the burning desire, you can have the perfect 6-step plan, but it will all completely fall apart without this one quality. The quality that separates the winners from the people who almost won, and that is persistence. Hill doesn't mince words here. A quitter never wins and a winner never quits. It's as simple and as brutal as that. There are no exceptions. So what about Darby, the guy who stopped 3 feet from gold? You'd think that failure would have broken him, right? Nope. It forged him into something stronger. He later became a world-class insurance salesman. And his secret? Whenever a customer told him no, he would just think back to that moment, 3 feet from gold, and say to himself, I stopped once, but I will not stop now. He turned his biggest failure into his most powerful asset, unstoppable persistence. And Darby's story isn't some one-off fluke. It's the rule. In his research, Hill found this incredible pattern. For nearly every successful person, their greatest triumph came just one step past their moment of greatest defeat. That's the test, you see. Defeat only becomes failure if you accept it. And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most powerful idea in the whole book. It's the concept that all of this, the desire, the planning, the persistence, it's all powered by one source. And that source is you. You are the master of your fate. You are the captain of your soul. Hill describes your brain as being like a broadcasting tower for your thoughts. It acts like a giant magnet pulling towards you all the people, the forces, the circumstances that match whatever thoughts you hold most often. And here's the kicker. The magnet doesn't judge. It doesn't care if your thoughts are good or bad, constructive or destructive. It just attracts their real-world equivalent. What this means is that you literally cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought. You have to consciously and deliberately flood your mind with your desire. Your most dominant thoughts must be about wealth, not poverty. About success, not failure. A wealth consciousness has to come before the actual wealth. You have to build it in your mind before you can ever hold it in your hand. And that's the timeless formula. It's not magic, it's a method. It all starts with a single thought and ends with you taking command. And it leaves every single one of us with one huge question to ask ourselves every day. What are the dominant thoughts you're broadcasting out into the universe? Are they thoughts of success or are they thoughts of failure? The choice, as always, is yours.